sit back, relax, and let's have a chapter chat. I'm your host, Jessica Foster, and today we have author Natalie Walters with us, joining in from Texas. Hi there, Natalie.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great. It's just hot and humid.
Yes, same here. Miserable.
Yes, it is. But you know what you can always do when it's hot and humid outside? You can sit in the air conditioner and read a book.
Absolutely.
Your new novel, Spies, Lies, and Alibies, is out, and I absolutely love the cover of it. It's adorable.
Thank you. I think they did a great job with the design.
Yes, and let's give our listeners just a brief synopsis of the novel.
So Spies, Lies, and Alibis is a sort of inspired by Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I loved the movie, and I was trying to figure out like what could I do that would be kind of a similar vein. And so I brought my undercover FBI agent, Ben, and he is working to put a criminal boss behind bars, and he crosses paths at the most inconvenient time at the Dallas Museum of Art. There's a gala, and he ends up running into a woman who, from his past that he knew, someone he actually had feelings for once upon a time. And unbeknownst to him, she is also there spying on her boss. She's committing corporate espionage on behalf of an agency to try to take down her boss and her boss's network of criminal colleagues. And so they both end up running into each other at this gala, and they both have a separate mission, and neither one can expose the other, but they both know that they're each in trouble and could, actually their own cover could be blown by the other person. So it's just a bunch of chaos and antics and, spy fun. And it's to me, it was just a really fun adventure.
Yes, kind of like a cat and mouse.
It was a lot of fun to be able to write that. And I think that one of the things I think as an author, most people want to see the love story play out. And I think it's very different on a television show or a movie versus a book. With Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you kind of get to see their interactions immediately as husband and wife. But in a book, the readers want to see the characters come together and what that tension is. And so I had to really be very conscientious about how I was going to bring these two characters together. And why would somebody who knows another person is lying about who they are, why would they accept that and allow that? And so it was a lot of fun to be able to kind of build that into the storyline.
And when did you know that you wanted to write and you wanted to have a romance element to the genre?
So I think one of the things that is very clear in reading as a whole is that women are primary readers. And so we really I enjoy as a reader, I enjoy seeing a couple get together and like what can draw them apart. And I think especially in a suspense or a spy, you look at Bond and you look at Jason Bourne and you look at all these stories that have this sort of spy element, and you want to see them get together because it shows a softer side. It also shows a vulnerability for the spy or the law enforcement agent. What could be the thing that would make them not do what they do, or would cause them to maybe have a mistake that could risk their lives, risk the life of somebody they care about. And so that romance element in the story, I think one provides a little lightheartedness. It's always fun to see, the two characters, the tension that is building between them romantically, but also it adds a level of depth to the characters on what would they be willing to sacrifice for the person that they have feelings about, for the mission, which is, what their external motivation is, and how do those two things collide?
Yeah, I like the collision of so many things in your writing. I think that it does make it intriguing, a page turner, which I know is what all authors want.
Absolutely. We want our readers to forget about all of their social, like their social life, their jobs, their children, their laundry, like forget about all of it and just read our book.
how in the world do you know so much about spies and espionage?
So, I wish I had something really cool to say, like, well,
Yeah.
my part-time job is actually as a spy. But no, my husband was in the military for 29 years. He's retired. And so we've traveled around the world, around the country, and we've interacted with a lot of people from different agencies within the government and outside of our government, even. And so whenever I go, I literally feel like I'm a sponge. When I have dinner conversations or we're meeting out for coffee, I will literally talk to them and say, like, what are you working on? What can you tell me? And so as people start to tell me little bits of stories that they can reveal, I kind of pocket those, and then I figure out how can I like weave that into a story. And then I use those same people as consultants, as like, hey, do you think this could happen? And a lot of times they'll be like, well, no, that actually couldn't happen. And I'm like, or they said like, no, it wouldn't happen. I'm like, but can it happen? And they're like, well, it can happen. And I'm like, that's all I need. I just need possibility. And so so I sort of glean all of that information from people we know. And then I'm actually getting ready to travel overseas this next week. And I'm actually meeting with somebody who goes and works internationally to protect and rescue people from bad situations. And so I will just be walking with him through the streets of, London, and getting his telling me like, what do I look for? What am I watching for? So so just that I just meet people, and I will glean as much information as I can from them and then pour it into my books.
You're like a journalist.
Yes, but without the like, I don't have to like embed myself.
Right. That. Yes. Yes. And you can make up facts where as a journalist we can't.
Right. And I'm not technically getting shot at any, point in time. The most dangerous part of my job is actually my browser history. So that is the part that gets me in the most trouble.
Right. I bet. I mean, oh my goodness. Has anyone ever questioned it?
All the time. I'm fairly certain that the reason I get checked at TSA is because of what's on my browser history.
I know. Well, as journalists, we have to look up a lot too. And we're always kind of like, people probably wonder.
What's so interesting is a lot of stuff you look up, it's stranger than fiction. Like real life, like the real things that are happening. There's times when I'm like, I could not write that real life event into a book. And a publisher and readers would be like, I don't buy it. I don't buy that. That could never happen. And so one of the things that I really like to do with my own stories is to like add those elements into my story, like this, and then give author notes and say like, this actually occurred. And I just took fictional liberty to like weave a story around it. But I do think that there's so much that actually goes on in real life that I don't think people would buy unless they actually saw like that this actually occurred.
Oh, I know. Yeah. As a journalist myself, I see that and you're like, oh my goodness. So let's talk about your path into becoming an author. Was it a traditional path? Did it have some twists and turns?
I would say I think it was pretty traditional. I started writing in 2010 and worked on manuscripts. At the time I had started, we were living in Kansas, and then we reassigned to an overseas assignment in Egypt, in Cairo, Egypt. And so while I was there, I was working on my first main manuscript, my first book. And while we were there, the Arab Spring occurred and we were evacuated out of the country. And then we were, after several months, brought back into the country. And so I was able to kind of use that experience again, taking real life stuff and fictionalizing elements of it and pouring that into a story. And submitted that. And so then I went to conferences, met with editors and agents, submitted that story. It didn't get picked up. It had a lot of interest, but didn't get picked up. And I ended up starting working on another series or another book, and that contract, I ended up getting a contract for that. So I feel like it's very, like I was very straightforward on going to a conference, meeting with editors and agents, getting an agent, submitting books to editors and then getting a contract traditionally. It probably took, I would say, like, you know, 3 to 4 years, which I think is really, really good. I think that is an unusual, a short amount of time, but I think it was just the time was right. It's interesting when I say the time was right, because the first story, as I wrote it, and it had elements of, you know, terrorism and things like that in it, still with like some lighter moments. There was a lot going on in the world that was dealing with that. And so I got a lot of I think I got like 5 rejections in 1 week, because they're just like, we can't do that. They weren't willing to touch it. And so I had to go a different route to sort of like, which I think was good, because I think it helped me find my voice as an author as well. And I gravitate towards sort of the thriller and on the edge of your seat type of stories. And so shifting from that, I had to figure out, okay, what is it that is actually my voice that can bring heavier moments and heavier elements into a story, but with my own kind of twisted sense of humor and, you know, lightheartedness. So it worked out.
Yeah, and it always works out like it's supposed to, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I truly believe that. I think my very first conference I went to, I remember thinking, because there's, I mean, hundreds of authors that are trying to like get their foot in the door. And I just remember thinking that, like, if it's meant to be, it will happen. Like, there's nothing in my head that says one writer is better than another writer, or we don't all have the same passion or the same, you know, desires. I just think it's all about like that timing, that like, this is when you're supposed to be published and this is the book that you're going to publish. And so it was the right book at the right time, and it worked out.
And what advice do you have to aspiring authors?
I think for me, the biggest thing is to, one, continue to read in your genre, know what your genre is about, and then figure out a way that you can make yourself stand out in that genre, whatever that is. So for me, I think one of the struggles I had as an author very early on was trying to get, because romance is one of the biggest selling genres. It just is. And so romantic suspense, however, people had a idea of what that meant. They meant hard, heavy, dark subjects. I'm going to be scared. I'm going to be uncomfortable. Some of those things are true, but there's also the romance part of that, the love part of that, the hope and light part of that, that like actually I think is a really good contrast. And so I think for me, one of the things that I wanted to do in the genre for me as a writer was to figure out, how do I make readers see that there is this lighter side to suspense? There is this like almost, I want to say, fun, moment of like, okay, we're getting shot at, but we're going to banter about it. Like, we're going to argue about like, what is the best bulletproof place to hide, things like that. And so I think for readers, or for authors that are aspiring writers, to really find the thing that makes you stand out. What is the thing that you love when you read a book that stands out to you? Is it the humor? Is it the, mystery? Is it like, what is it? And then figure that out and hone that in for your own story.
As far as romance, because I know that it is the best-selling genre, how do you decide spice level? Because I know some romance books can be very, very spicy, and then some have no spice. So how do you find that balance?
Yeah, I think, it's so funny. Spice levels are subjective even. Yeah. Like, you can see they're like, I see it all over social media. What I think is closed door is not what someone else's version of closed door is. What someone thinks is low spice is not what what someone else thinks is low spice. And so I think for me, it's obviously all individually based, but for me, I think writing my story is, I like to call it a 3rd degree slow burn. So it is there's a lot of tension, there's romantic tension, there's the sizzling, moments of like, okay, because I think that to me, that is really fun. And the second you allow them to kiss or to do anything else, you've broken a really strong point of tension. And they're like, okay, well, now what? What now? And so I think it's got to be based off of each person's preference for what they think the story is telling you. So I will say it's very interesting. I've looked at a lot of my stories looking back, and I think I probably don't have a kiss in most of my books until the third act, sometimes the very last couple chapters. Like it just doesn't happen in any, because I want to be authentic. And the reality is if you're getting shot at by bad guys, that's probably not the moment to kiss. Like you might say, oh, I love you, because it might be the last word you ever say to the person next to you, but you're probably not going to like kiss and, whatever. So, I think for me, like it's most realistic for it to happen, later on. However, I will say that there have been a couple times where a kiss that wasn't necessarily the romantic part of it, whether it was like a mistake kiss or whatever, has happened, I think earlier on in my story, like maybe 2 stories, maybe. Only one that I can actually think of right now, but I think there might be 2. So I think it just depends on what that is. But I do feel like the longer you can stretch that romantic tension, the more quicker your readers are going to turn their pages, because they want that. They're yearning for that just as much as your characters are yearning for it.
Yeah, I love how you describe that. And I can see the tension building in your novels. And I think that is what keeps people intrigued, just like you said.
Right. I mean, I always give the example of Friends with Ross and Rachel.
Yes.
Like they've had all this tension, and then they finally get together and everybody's like cheering for it. And then you're like, okay, but now what? And so what did they have to do? They had to break them up. They were off again, on again, off again, on again. And so you were able to follow that through a series, like through a television show, but it's very hard to do that with a book series. And so the longer you can stretch that, the better off it is. I think it's a better payout.
I think so too. Yeah, I would agree with you on that. And do you write every day?
I should be. That's the goal. I used to write every single day, pretty regularly, had it in my schedule. And then I became a grandma last year. I ended up with 2 grandbabies. Both my daughters had children. And so one of my grandchildren lives here. And so I would get to watch him. And it's such a privilege and an honor to be able to watch him grow, and everything they say about being a grandparent is absolutely true. So my writing days, I told my daughter, in fact, I told her today, I said, he is my kryptonite. Like if he's around, I don't want to write. I want to play with him and snuggle him and sniff him. And so I don't write every day like I should, but he's getting ready to go. He's getting ready to go into daycare for a couple days a week. And so I will probably get back onto a schedule. But I did tell her that I said, don't be surprised if I go grab him and pick him up on days when I'm like, I need a little grandson time.
Oh, I'm sure. I've heard. And can I just say, Natalie, I would have never pictured that you're a grandmother. I thought maybe you had little kids at home.
Oh no, all of my babies are now having babies, except for my son. He's a firefighter, and he's not married yet. We are taking applications.
You have such young energy.
Oh, I feel like I have to. I feel like in order to keep up with my children and my grandchildren, I am exhausted by the end of the day. There is something to be said about going to bed at 9 o'clock in the evening. It's amazing.
And so how many children do you have?
I have 3 children. I have 2 daughters, and my youngest is a boy. So
okay.
Yeah.
And yeah. I just have one who just became a teenager, just turned 13. So
yeah, well, and it's so interesting. My son, he's going out today, and I was giving him the regular mom lecture. I mean, he's 25 years old, and I'm still telling him, buckle your seatbelt, watch for this, watch for that. That will never stop. And I make no apologies for that. But I told my daughter, I said, because I said, just wait, that's coming for you, because you have a little boy. And I said, I've never had a firstborn son, so I can't imagine what that dynamic is. Like my oldest was a girl, and I feel like they're a little bit more I don't want to say manageable, but they're just a little bit more, I think, like easy, like, they kind of go like, I guess, amenable to like me telling them what to do. My son is like, no, I'm going to go do it. My middle daughter, however, is like, she'll do whatever she wants to do. But I told her I've never had a firstborn son, so I can't imagine that dynamic. And like, and he's like, I'm going to go do this. And you're like, no.
Yeah. Your mama heart is like, ah.
Yeah. When they say it lives outside of your body the day you have a baby, they are not joking. It absolutely does.
I know. It's hard to, like, even when you're at work, you're kind of thinking about them. I'm always thinking, I hope she's having a good day at school. I hope this is going well. I hope her project presentation went well. It's hard not to think about that constantly because you just love them so much.
Absolutely. And you just want the best for them. And so you're trying to think of all the, when I tell them all the warnings that I give them, I'm like, I'm not trying to make you not have fun. I'm trying to keep you from like experiencing any harm that would otherwise, take away the fun. So I'm trying to save you from all the mistakes that I've made.
I love that. Well, what message do you have for your readers?
I just really want my readers to have the best time reading my books. I want them to literally ignore life. I want friends to wonder where they're at because they are nose deep in a book. And I want them to finish my stories and say, that was a great time. Let's do it again. So I just, that is the highest compliment to me, that they can have a good time reading my books and then want to share that with their friends because they're like, you've got to read this. So that's my hope, is that they're just having a great time when they read my stories.
And I think that everyone who reads Spies, Lies, and Alibis will have a great time. We've had a great time with you today, Natalie.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Thank you. You've been listening to Chapter Chat. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Happy reading.